Well, there, that's located in place. Now, some people make a right scene about putting these rear cross members in, and it ain't difficult. So basically what I do is I lay it flat with the mountings pointing towards the front of the car and those bits pointing downwards, and I feed it in from this edge. So it goes behind the passenger side, yeah, lay it almost flat on top of the chassis with these bits on top of the chassis. You have to get a jemmy underneath the boot floor, but as you can see there's a fair amount, sorry, could bolt it down now, but there's a fair amount of give in the boot floor, yeah, while it's not all welded on. So using a jemmy, kind of just lift the boot floor, position it roughly in place, then clamp the ends, put the body mounts in, again using the jemmy. Once the body mounts are in, I should tighten those up now, and then I can start prepping for weld, and I just weld it back onto the bottoms of the goalposts, and then that is rear cross member done. Obviously a bit more work to do with the boot floor. I think it's salvageable. I've been going over with a zip wheel over some of these bits. It's not beautiful. There's a few holes here, but I can just plug weld these onto the top of the galv. This one's a bit more of a concern. I've got to make up, I think I've got to make up a new lip, I think, for the entire length of the floor on this side, but I think I'm going to stop saying I think. Because all I do is I tell you all the stuff I'm going to do, and then end up editing it all out because I've done it. And it just like, you watch it 2 seconds later, but it's a couple of hours later for me. This floor, this arch, perfect. I'm just going to take off the seam sealer. It's one tiny little hole about there. It's just water's got caught behind the seam seal, rusted from the inside to the outside. I'll be able to put a small plate over that. And then all of this damage here, I'm just really going to clean it up and put some decent paint on it. While it was absolutely bitterly freezing cold, I started to pull the footwell out. You can see the loom is out of the way up there, and I was going to cut the underlay where the loom, the channel the loom actually sits in, and then this damp section of underlay can come out and dry out. And I just wanted to start kind of taking, because the carpet folds up out of the way, but obviously the underlay goes right up over the top of the transmission tunnel and back down the other side. So rather than taking the dash, the heater and everything else out to get the underlay out in a single piece, poetic license, I cut the underlay. Carpet goes back intact, but as you can see it folds right up and out of the way. Well, I'm not going to slam that because my cable's in there. Look at that. That's silly, Richard. That is silly. You will slam that because I know it. Let's go over here. And up here, the other thing I was doing is there was cleaning up a set of carburetors. That's how they start, and that's how they are after a half-hour clean. Come up all right, haven't they? Mustn't go on about carburetors. Oh, we are going to shut. Right, everything needs lubing up on this. Okie dokie, onwards. It's welded in. I welded a plate on under here. Not my tidiest welding, but I hate welding upside down. Tied it up all around. It'll get a brushable seam sealer on it. And again, similarly here, an original plate down there, plugged on that side. So that's the cross member in. I've not attached the floor on this side yet. I've tidied this piece up. That could be welded back on. Again, waiting for, you can have a look at that as well. I'll let you have a look at it. I'm waiting for what I'm going to do with the floor first of all. So that piece is done. And then also I drilled the remaining, or the remains of the studs out of the boot hinges, which is easy, to be honest, folks. Just drill them central. I'm pretty sure the stud is exactly 9mm. But you drill them down the middle and kind of get to that sort of point. So you can see on that one I probably went through with about an 8mm drill and they came out. The other one I had to take it right out to the 9mm, but drilled centrally and they came out. There you go. Original hinges back from whence they come. I haven't got the pins yet. And I still need to secure the springs onto the top of the bulkhead. Sorry, top of the bulkhead. You don't know what you're talking about, Richard. Again, onto the outside edge of the cross member. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. I think that's been quite a good day of effort there. Get that welded on, get those sorted out. It's not been a full day of chargeable time. It's been lots of kind of me sitting around thinking, fuck me, it's cold. Followed by fire watch and so forth. It wasn't quite the hour I was anticipating to weld it on, but it wasn't far off it. Largely because I had to drill these two bastards out, which took me half an hour. And then I had to make a plate up under there. And welding galv. Now, I know, you can't kind of... Galv has got a coating on it, which, when you're trying to weld, pollutes the surface. So, what it actually does is it goes white, and then this stuff comes up in the air in like will-o'-the-wisps. Don't breathe those will-o'-the-wisps in. They make you sick. So, I had a face mask on while I was welding. Yeah, and that worked quite well. Quite happy with that. Did the job. But the problem is that when you haven't quite got the face mask, sorry, when you haven't quite got the galv ground back, you end up with large pools. Brushable seam sealer will go over the top of that. I tried to grind the worst of it back. Right, Sunday the 2nd of January. New Year. Happy New Year, everyone. These are the bits that I've taken off the LSE. The pile's getting bigger. This side more or less complete. It is a patch. I've cut the rust out, put a patch in from the blind side, skim a filler on the inside. You never know. It's watertight. Couple of holes up there, nothing particularly serious. And there was a small hole at the back end here. For now. As far as the footwell's concerned, that's all now welded up. And this side is, apart from the seal, the rubber seal kind of channel thing, that's all done. This side, oh my word, oh my days. Just, good Lord. Right, okay, so where did we go? Well, I cut the obvious hole out that was there, and then obviously when I started going Mr. Tapial on this edge here, it ended up like most of the floor had rotted out along that edge there. In fact, so much so that when we look at the floor, which is here, it looked like that. So really, that's where the edge is along there, and it was all the way around here, and all the way along there, and all the way there. So I just thought, oh, for fuck's sake, I might as well just actually cut it out and then do it, you know, with a sheet of steel, which is exactly where I'm going to go to with it, because I need to make repairs here, I need to make repairs here, and I need to make repairs here, and I also just sort out the channel down here. So by the time I've done all that, I thought, cut it out. So then, having cut it out, and bits of floor, and again, you're just seeing absolutely nothing that's got any paint on it, but you know, it is what it is. And with the rear wheel arch, which you remember had rotted down this join here, I was finding that it actually rotted under the seam. So this is the piece that goes on the outside. This piece went under here, okay, underneath the lip of the side curtain. So I drilled the spot welds out, and you can see here most of the spot welds, it rotted around the spot welds. So I think it was a good call to drill the spot welds around the arch there. Cut the arch on the inside, because that piece there went down like that. Cut the arch on the inside, then just welded a bloody great lump of steel in there. Okay, and then welded it right up to the very, this is the sunroof drain. I've got to drill a hole through the bottom here, because the base of the C-pillar was actually detached. It's okay on the outside, solid on the outside, welded nicely to the inside. The majority of the arch there was okay. And then, of course, we get to the bottom edge, and this was all completely rotted out, which I've got that piece as well somewhere. Oh, there we are. That's part of it. That's the piece that was on the floor. And yes, it would have lasted about a year, but by the time we've done all those, that's the end of the wheel arch that I took off. I I tried cleaning up on the outside, and it was starting to, you know, when you start going over things with a zip wheel, and you can see the metal is heating up. So I opted, actually, let's just take it apart, because those two pieces originally would have gone together like that, joined together, and spot weld together underneath, and then the mud flap dropped down from that. Mud flaps, just going to put new ones on. It's just not worth faffing around with them. So here, all I'm really waiting for now is the boot floor side section, which I'm going to cannibalise for parts and weld it in. Everything else is done here now. I had to make up this new lip here. It's a bit longer than it should be. I just welded it in and then just slice it off. Lots of seam sealer. And the only other area I had to do was this chunk of the floor here, which all of the wiring for the stereo runs underneath, so I had to pull all that out. Goody goody. Got to be careful, guys. Fuel tank's already out. The fuel line runs along here as well. Cut it out. Started welding it back in, and whatever the underside of the floor has been treated with is highly flammable. Oh, so I was kind of dabble weld, put it out, dabble weld, put it out, dabble weld, put it out. Took forever. So that's why it's tacked in rather than kind of seam welded in. I'd have preferred to seam weld it in. It's not structural. It's nowhere near the seatbelt mount. I will put a decent seam sealer around the edge of it. As far as I'm concerned, the original boot floors, they were screwed and all riveted in anyway, so I'm happy enough with it. It will do the job. I mean, in the long run, the boot floor will probably need replacing, but at the moment, some localised repairs to the boot floor would actually save the majority of the panel. If we look, for instance, at this corner here, this is where the boot floors always rot out. And look at it. That's sweet, that is. All the way along here. Really nice. So I'm inclined to just make localised repairs to the boot floor. Well, I have made localised repairs to the boot floor. And it will live to fight another day. Yes. How did you spend your Sunday after New Year? Me, I was welding up an LSE. I had to get on with it. I really did. It's quiet up here today. Welder's performing beautifully. I love my welder. Really, really love my welder. I'm almost out of gas as well, which is... I mean, I do turn the regulator off at the end of the day, but you can see it's getting towards the red. I shall keep running with it. Plenty of other jobs to do. And then the only reason I haven't really done anything more with this is I'm waiting to finish off on the other side, then I'll do the whole lot together. Now, when it comes to this lot here, that lip there is underneath the car, so the boot floor sits about here. And I think, having been over it, and this is all the old seam seal here, I've been over it, and the majority of it is actually fairly solid. Similarly here, so what I'm going to do here is cut along there, just weld a new lip on, to replace this piece here where it's blown. It's not, you can see it's pretty compromised. And then over here, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. That's just fucked. I think what I'm inclined to do is actually, because it's, again, it's not a structural kind of part, it's just a mud trap that sits on, one of the many mud traps that sits on these vehicles. To slice down there, clean this, weld another piece of metal in down there. And obviously the floor's all bent up at the moment. Sorry, the curtain's all bent up at the moment because I've got to get the new floor in. Yeah, all these welds went fine. It was the weld underneath, up under here. Where are we? Up under there. You can see the light coming through. But I don't know what the stuff was that they used. But yeah, it burns nicely. And then it's going to be a case of putting the car back together, get the back end of this thing back together. That'll be nice, won't it? That will be nice. Boot floor piece is in. Now, what I basically did to do this, cheapest way of doing this, I mean the cheapest way of doing it probably would have been me getting a piece of sheet metal and folding it and measuring it and folding it and measuring it. But I buy these panels. So these are more or less exactly to the millimetre, the right width, the right height, the right dimensions for the side floors on a Range Rover Classic. These come from YRMIT. Google them. YRMIT. Very, very good. Nice thick steel. Good 1.2mm thick steel. So it's 18 gauge, I believe. I'll double check it in a second. This piece is a repair section. So basically, if you don't need to repair the entire floor, you use that as a repair section down there. Now, the reason I bought those bits, because this all goes into my stock, is that little piece there. Oh, look. Shit, that bed. That is exactly what I need there to repair the edge of the floor. Okay? So we've got two sections there. And then the final pieces I bought are the lips. I bought a pair of these because I need one for my car for L95. These little lips go along here and hold the seal to prevent all the exhaust and crap coming in. So I'll weld that on at the end of it. And then, this is today's job, weld this in, get it done. Now there's a little bit of crap around the bottom of the filler neck. I just need to tidy. I wanted to line everything up first of all, clean all that crap up, paint all these shut faces, weld it in, be done with it, and tidy all this crap out of the boot, and get it painted. So the only bit that's a little bit odd is I salvaged, you get to see it, this lip off the original piece. It was salvageable, so I've chopped it off and I'll butt weld that straight onto the edge here. Just gives it a tidy appearance. But yeah, this is moving in the right direction quite rapidly now. And then that piece, I just need to make up a little L section. So once this is all welded in, I'll make a little L section to close that in. I'll close that in. We're done. The only thing I'm going to have to do, I think, is this piece needs chopping off here, because I think on the original panel, there we are. There's the original panel. It was chopped off at the back end. So always, you know, never chuck anything away, folks. I think I might have mentioned it a couple of times, until you just don't need it anymore. But that has made life an awful lot easier, really doing it that way round. So I'll get that welded in and I'll come back to you. I'm not going to show you me welding because it's just boring. You want to watch me welding? I don't know. It's a bit odd there. Richard, it might have just been a bit on the odd side. So here, all I'm really going to do, so you see I've marked along the edge there, I shall cut and butt splice, and then it literally just needs a square piece putting in there, which is fairly easy to do, and I'll do that right at the end. And this boot floor then will be back to how it should be. Oh yes. It's been a fair amount of work, but I think ultimately the car is worth it in the long run. Let's take the what's his name clip out. I need to get two hands onto that. Oh my goodness. It's warmer than it was yesterday. My knuckles aren't blue today. I might get the heater fired up in a second. But I'll get the heater fired up before I paint, because the problem is when you're trying to paint in this, you can just see there's moisture on all the panels. So I have to warm the panels up. Yes, I think first of all though, coffee. Hello, Mr. Kettle. Oh, he's put water in you. There we go. Got this piece welded in. Looks better. I'm gonna tack it on up there, tack it on here, tack it on here, and then it really kind of just needs all pulling into place. It's just, as it is always with these things, it's just a case of measuring, putting in. The only thing I've cocked up on this slightly is this piece is slightly too short. Really wants to go up to about there. I might just cut another bit of this. It's not really a problem. You see here, there's a gap there. We might as well do this thing properly while we got it to this stage. So that's what I want to happen up here. And I just need, once I've kind of lined this piece up and in place, it's just a case of cutting it. Now I know that is a curved profile, this is going to be a box profile. It's just easier this way, all right? This is not a concourse restoration, this is a getting it solid and watertight restoration. And a short while later, it's all in. I've not done this closing piece here yet because I want to put the, and I got bored with welding. All of that's all closed in, welded the tunnel on, welded it. It's not the most beautiful, but then you're working from contaminated steel outwards. All of this will get a good seam seal over it. That piece there had just rotted out, so I chiselled off what was remaining of the bit that had rotted out, which is this piece here. Welded that in. A little hole down there. Weld that in tomorrow. Not doing it now. I'm on Firewatch now. But yeah, that's pretty much now the boot floor, apart from the seal, done. And I'm going to go and have a gin, because it is, oh, I'll be having a gin in an hour. There you go, 5:05 on a Saturday. On a Saturday. So these are the seam seals I use. I've got a brushable seam seal, which is very, very good when you've got a really tight fit. And I've got a squirty seam seal. This stuff comes from Car Paint Company. It's good stuff. Paint over the top of it. It's always good when you can paint over the top of the stuff. It means there's less silica in it, I guess. I don't know. So there are a couple of little bits more welding that I need to do. Before I break the welder up next time, I do need to do the inner sill on this side. So just up here, I'll show you in a second when I get underneath. But before I do that, we're dark. Let's get the light down here. Before I do that, what I do need to do is the rear axle is making a racket on this car, and I sussed out why. It's because the centre viscous differential has seized up solid. It's locked through, so I suspect there's some damage to the rear axle. I'm going to take the prop shaft off, drain the fluid, and see what happens. Now, before I go too berserk on this, I do need to disconnect the air springs. Now, because there's an air line goes into the top, I'm inclined just to actually just disconnect the air spring from the bottom, from the put my teeth in from the axle end. There you go. I'm going to have to really, I think first, because I need to replace the A-frame bracket is where I'm going with this. Now, I don't really want to start taking too much stuff apart, but obviously in order to get the axle off, we need to disconnect the dampers. I need to disconnect the bottom clips, and there's one clip up there. You can just about see the little bastard up there. It's probably easy to see the ones on the bottom. There we are, there's one under there. See that clip? Get the camera in there. There's the clip. Two little clips, one each side, holds the air spring onto the turret. So I'll leave the air spring attached to the chassis, drop the axle down. I'm also going to get this anti-roll bar thing off, just because it's going to be in the way and a pain in the arse. The brakes are going to need to be bled down, only because I'm changing the front inner wings. So the brakes will need to be bled down anyway. So part of this activity really is going to be changing that A-frame pivot on top of the axle, because it's just shagged out, and the second part is going to be working out what on earth has happened to the differential. So first and foremost, I think we might need to have a bit of a sweep up down here, because this is all just rusty shards of metal. I'm going to chop that off as well before I bash my face on it. Make a coffee. Oh yes. That's really what I'm doing here. So because of the air suspension, slightly more complex, but not a lot. I mean, the main thing is making sure that the car was on the bump stops, which very clearly it is. If it's not on the bump stops, there's still pressure in the system. If you start fucking around with the air springs and there's pressure in the system and the weight of the car is not on it, then you will do damage to yourself, to the airbags, and to a number of other things. So airbag is depressurized. I can punch it. So just undo the clips from the bottom, like I said. Now, I need to work out what's going on with these brake lines, because that's a weird one, isn't it? I suspect it's been replaced at some point. It's a weird one though. It's not really following the path that it should do. Came off the bottom. There's one. Where one was, it just went onto that pin there. And now in theory, the bag, which doesn't look beautiful, but the bag is now free from the turrets. I've taken the anti-roll bar off, and then what I'm really going to do is, well, there's something odd with these brake lights. They are all over the fucking shop, so I need to sort all that out. It does look like the main chassis lines are in very good order or have been replaced at some point. There's quite a lot of shit up here. I mean, considering the underside of the car's been gone over, there are areas where it is starting to rust. It really wants doing properly. All the areas that I welded in, or over there. Right, okay, so what I'm going to do next on this, because I tend to do it and then come back to you and let you know what I've done. I know it's the approach I take. I'm going to drain the fluid out of the axle next. I've got the prop shaft off, as you can see, it's down there on the ground. Where are we? There, on the ground. I'm going to drain the fluid, stand the axle on axle stands. So it needs to come down a little bit, but not a lot. I'll leave the dampers on for the time being, because I don't know what I'm going to do. Drain the fluid. Then I need to get the drive shafts out and find out what is going on with this axle. It makes a lot of noise. That's obviously brake pads. It makes a lot of noise when it's running. So I'm going to find out what's happened. Now, the other thing that does happen with these, and you can see it's very clearly happened, there's quite a lot of oil mist around the bottom of the... So let me go... We've got the breather, which goes on top of the axle there, and the breather attaches to a pipe which goes along the A-frame arms and then terminates. And they're a pain, because what they basically do is they breathe out some moisture, and then when it cools down they start sucking all the dust and shit back in, so ultimately the pipe gets bunged up. So if I undid that, I'll probably find I'll get a big hiss, where the excess pressure in the axle casing kind of lets it all go. It's a pain, but really kind of that pipe needs to be replaced, or a traditional breather needs to be put onto it. And then the other big challenge I've got is getting these bastards out, because they are seized in proper. The strap that goes over the top of the fuel tank really is not in great shape either. I'm probably going to have to take that off and get that sorted out. It's when you start picking at the edges on this, it's tricky, always tricky to know when to stop. Are we just doing it to an MOT standard? Are we doing it to a, well, it's been done, we don't have to take it apart again? So for instance, the fuel lines, it's ridiculous to even consider leaving that one, whether that's the feed or the return, leaving that pipe in place is ridiculous, because you can see it very, very clearly corroded quite badly. Can you get the hand out of the way of the light, Richard? Yes, we can. Corroded quite badly. And it's pitted, and I reckon if I got hold of that, I'd snap that. It would snap straight off. So that needs sorting. Now, the return pipe goes always to the front, of course. The feed pipe goes to the filter, which is over there in the wheel arch. We come off the trolley. Oh my goodness, hello. There's a bit of rust down here I noticed as well. Look at that. That's quite common there. And all of this, you can see, is all original. Seam seal that's just split. Right, so over here, in this arch, we should have, up here, fuel filter. It's up there. I don't know if you can see that in the gloom. There's a fuel filter up there, and obviously there's a pipe that goes into the back of it, which goes down to the back of the tank. Now, more often than not, it's just the piece from the filter to the back of the tank that's shot. I'll need to do something with it. Something will need to happen. I think first and foremost we're going to get this bloody thing done. Now, this bag is in a lot better shape, so I'm wondering if this is a replacement bag and the other one is an original bag which went bang. Or it's going to go bang. I don't know. Right, so here's the freshly drained oil in a nice clean bowl. My magnet with the blue finger, tip of a blue finger glove, one of these things on the end of it. Now let's see what's going on in here. It's a lot of grit, a lot. I think something's died in here. I think next up, if I just go, not, you know, rubbing the bottom of the bowl, but this bowl was clean, I promise you. But the other bowl that I use is down there on the floor. So to justify it, that's the other bowl I use for the diff. Right, now the beauty of using the glove is that I can take the tip of the glove off or just rub it on there. Look at all that lot. That's a fair amount of filings in there. That doesn't look good. That's not beautiful. So I think next, drive shafts out. I think next